So we've got two boxes here, which seems to be pretty common these days. Before I start with these, I got Gravity Falls Volumes 1 and 2. Coworker suggested it. I figured might as well get it, even if I'm probably not going to watch it anytime in the next couple of weeks, I guess. But instead, let's focus on the anime DVD. Begin with that. Let's see. Magical Warfare is the Order of Rabbits. Then, let's just be quick about that, opening that one. And then we got a couple more DVDs to add on top of that. Why don't we begin with this? This is a Persona 4 The Golden animation, which I think is different from the other Persona 4 that's been released. There we go. Here's where don't know if I'm going to be putting it back in there. Probably not, because this seems like sturdy enough packaging. So, this is obviously an Aniplex release. Subtitled English. So I'm pretty sure it's not that other Persona 4 anime. This is, first of all, it's volume 1. Second of all, it doesn't have a dub, whereas the other one definitely did, because that one was released dubbed without subtitled on Blu-ray. I'm going to look at these extras first, just because this had them on the bottom. Looks like we got our postcards. Yeah, I really ought to try and understand the Persona anime and stuff quite a bit more. It is a popular franchise. Persona 4, I think, was particularly well received, although I do believe this plastic is falling apart. How annoying. See that? Oh. And then, of course, we've got the questionnaire and the proof of purchase. So we've got two containers here. This one says disc 1 and 2, so let's begin taking a peek at it. With a total of 6 episodes. This one says original soundtrack, which is definitely a nice option to have, especially if I watch it and end up loving the soundtrack or something like that. So we've got that. This is a Lull in the Sea. You remember last week I got the Blu-ray, or maybe it was the week before. These are the DVD version. I think it's just these 2 volumes. And I do believe they were sold separately. I just happened to be thorough and got both. Or something. I don't know. So if we take a look at disc 1. This one says DVD, of course. 1, 2, and 4. The inside we have disc 1, disc 2, That's interesting artwork. That's just a nice, pleasant background. So, what is this saying? Get it in premium. Designer packaging, art books, soundtracks. Standard edition episode guide. So I do believe the premium was actually Blu-ray and this one was DVD. I guess I should probably count real quick because that looks like it goes up to episode 14. And I mean, it's not like counting is super important in this case, but as we look in volume 2, we do want to see what episodes this one has. Should be the remainder. Curious. Looks like 25 and 26. So this goes up to 26 episodes. The choice of doing 14 and 12 is most likely because there's some sort of logical dividing point. Next up we have Guardian Ninja Mamosu. Complete collection, Sentai, 12 episodes. Japanese with English subtitles. So many curious series, so we have time to watch them all. We got the Blu-ray of Patlabor 2, the movie. I know one of you asked me what dub the first Patlabor had, but I still haven't done the research into what all I have and what I might want to get, because maybe I want to get Patlabor 1 on a re-release DVD if it has a different dub than what I've currently got. Oof. Fairly straightforward. Obviously this has a dub and is region A only. Next up we've got Fullmetal Alchemist, the Conqueror of Shambala, Blu-ray, which is, it's nice this got re-released, regions A and B. Because I do believe it's been released before, and this has been on my to-get list to catch up on, so I didn't need to catch up on this. Yay for being lazy. I do believe I've seen that picture before. I think it was maybe the DVD menu or something. Well, not much else to this. Everything about it is nice and straightforward. It's a good prelude to the release of the first Fullmetal Alchemist series on Blu-ray. Next up is what I think might be the more interesting release this week, Soul Eater Not. Oh look, it's regions A and B. I'm pretty sure it looked like there were 2 audio streams there. It would make sense for it to be dubbed since Funimation release, and they tend to dub a lot of stuff. But I think there was a preview for something that looked like it was maybe not. Come on, focus camera, focus camera. English. Yay, I didn't have to look too closely myself. Now, I don't know too much about this, other than it is Soul Eater, and I do believe, well, yeah, there's a Maka and Soul right there. I am familiar with some complaints I've seen about the different character design, but I'm not sure what to think about it myself until I've, what are these discs? This one says DVD 1. This one is DVD 2. So the blue one contains the DVDs, whereas the purple one should contain Blu-rays. Blu-ray. Blu-ray 1. Blu-ray 2. Again, for me, that seems like the bigger name release this week. Last but not least, BlazBlue, which its name sounds familiar. Region A only. English stereo, Japanese stereo, so it's dubbed. But I'm trying to remember what all from. Like, what characters would all be familiar, and what am I mixing up from as characters from other games? Unless it wasn't from a game, and I'm just making weird guesses. You know, the thing I like about the weird guesses is being pleasantly surprised by being wrong. So this, of course, is DVD. Is that a 2? It looks like a 2, but sometimes I realize those 2s could be 3s, and that's Blu-ray 1 and Blu-ray 2. And character art. Well, there we go. It's this week's anime DVD collection update. So, it's been a week definitely much more anime focused, although I guess the list of stuff is not too much bigger than last week's. I don't know. I began by watching Super Sonico the animation this week, which was a... well, I kind of regretted the choice, but... how to put it? It's not that I thought it was a completely bad anime, but it's definitely the kind of thing that will not interest a lot of people, because it kind of begins... there's a part of me that's debated whether or not I would try and call it Barbie the anime, because it's definitely not that, it's not even partially that, but kind of the way things, you would describe the way things flow in the first episode, you might think, yeah, I could see how somebody would call that Barbie the anime, because it basically involves Sonico. She couldn't wake up, and then her cats woke her up, and then she... am I remembering the order of events right? I think she went to school, and people were just like, hey, it's Sonico. I don't know. And then she went to a photo shoot. And I guess what I'm getting at is, if you thought of what a Barbie anime would be like, you'd probably begin by guessing that it'd be distracted by too much by trying to represent the thing that the anime is about, and just having them be, oh yeah, you know, they're, even though that they're this down-to-earth person in this way, they're still like almost the most glamorous model. Except Barbie would actually probably be presented as the most glamorous, or trying to be the most glamorous or something. And while Super Sonico is not doing that, it's definitely the sort of thing where you finish the first episode and you kind of go, huh, I didn't really feel any character motivation in there. So it's kind of lacking in the drive to make you interested in seeing what's going on next. I mean, like everything else I watched is perfect examples of them introducing that. And Super Sonico kind of was missing that. So it's hard to be invested and to care. Now, maybe not necessarily... I'm talking hard from the point of view of narrative point of view, not hard from the point of view of they definitely like to throw fan service in your direction. And it's okay in that regard, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing, but I've definitely seen anime with fan service that had more drive to it than this one. Now that said, it did still have some of its high points. I actually thought the zombie episode and the Christmas episode were actually very nice. I think the last episode was also pretty good too. But they're not like so spectacular that they make it worthwhile. Like the zombie episode's a really good example, because the conclusion for that one felt very Super Sonico and safe, I guess. But a lot of the other stuff about that episode was pretty hilarious, just because it kind of felt out of place. So it was enjoyable to watch. I didn't care too much for the ending. It was just an ending that I don't want to talk too much about exactly what happened, just because if you do decide to watch it, I want you to enjoy it when it happens. But yeah, overall, it was a very anime. I mean, I didn't feel insulted watching it, other than that's not how cats behave. And you know, it's one of those shows where the main character talks to cats in English, and the cats understand it perfectly, and sometimes it works out. I think because they don't always do that, whereas this one's just like, okay, cats might as well just be completely sentient beings that are just little humans or something like that, as opposed to the cats from like Azumanga Daioh, who didn't act entirely cat-like all the time, but there were some times in which you're like, that's an interesting and entertaining representation of cats. So I don't know. I think I've talked enough about this. So I also started up One Piece Season 7 with my friend. Now this is Season 7 as described by Funimation, in case any of y'all are watching the Japanese version, because I'm pretty sure Season 2, what Funimation calls Season 2, is probably a collection of a couple seasons. But we started Season 7, me and my friend who were watching this series, and it's okay. I'm trying to decide if I would say it's more engaging than Thriller Bark, but I guess it really depends what part of Thriller Bark we're talking about. There's some interesting setup that's happened in these episodes, and I'm interested to see what happens next, because well, I don't know if I can say the because without talking about the exact details of why. So I'm curious where it's going so far. It's possible it's about to get very interesting, and part of those very interesting moments are sometimes when One Piece shines the best. It's interesting going back and watching the first episode and realizing, for its simplicity, it actually introduced some themes that actually keep me coming back to One Piece. Or rather, the fact that I'm watching it with a friend keeps me coming back to watch it. But I mean, like, coming back, watching it and enjoying it, it's like, even in the first episode, they kind of established these underlying themes about how our main characters are about being outlaws who right the wrongs of the world and motivate people and stuff like that, who also happen to be super strong, and so who knows if a message like that is actually very valuable. But it doesn't forget that per se. It's kind of a bit inspirational. And it kind of got epic because it sets up dire situations to counter that, and it kind of goes back and forth. It has places in there where the characters in the main characters' crew are legitimately skilled at a lot of things they do. So they will have episodes where they interact with people and they make things better for people. I can think of an episode where they snuck onto a Navy ship, I think, and like, hey, there's Sanji teaching somebody to cook. Not exactly teaching them, but kind of like helping them in a way that's like, I don't know if I would call it respectful per se, but I don't know. I just like it, and I'm curious where this is going so far. And I don't know how long I have to wait until the next one. I did watch all of Noragami. Was that all of it? Did it end suddenly? That's right, there is a second season, Noragami Arigato, that I don't think has aired yet, or hasn't finished airing yet. Content-wise, I actually thought this was a pretty nice show. It's a little reverse harem-y, But if you're not into that sort of thing, it isn't completely that. Like, you can already see that this is kind of the concept of the reverse harem there, where you have a girl who, it's really hard to say whether or not she's the protagonist. I think they had some opportunity to make her more involved and interesting, but it definitely fell into some traps, narrative traps, in which, you know, it's pretty reverse harem-y. So he might be the main character, but she would then be the narrator or the person through whom we see him through, or something like that. It's tricky to say, but story-wise, it's been entertaining. It hasn't been super exciting per se. It's had moments where good drama moments have happened, but it's a bit relaxed, I think. And that could actually be a good thing, since sometimes just being bombarded with overexciting things can burn you out really fast, or burn the anime out really fast. I think Problem Children Coming from Another World is a really good example of the burning itself out really fast anime. Really nice things in that, but the excitement only lasted for like half the episodes that were released. I don't know. Anyways, for this, I thought it was a pretty enjoyable watch. So, my last anime is 1 Week Friends, which I'm currently watching. I think I'm 4 or 5 episodes into it. It's actually some pretty good slice of life. If you're really into those, I'm trying to wonder if it's a stretch to call it relationshipy, but I guess you could have slice of lives that are like non Biori, which are just a bunch of characters kind of hanging around, and then you have these ones which are kind of more detailed in their interactions, perhaps. I don't know, I guess it comes in, slice of life comes in a couple flavors, but this one is definitely good in that regard, in whichever category this one falls into. I'm trying to think, because it's kind of brushing very closely to romance, but it's not exactly romance, because it's kind of about friendship, but it's about, maybe instead of asking her to be his friend, he wanted to ask her out. Maybe long runish. It's definitely one of those things where I kind of feel like that's the case, and I'm rooting for the main character to come to a solid decision in that regard. It's not that he wavers back and forth so much as I feel like there's an element of that there, and yeah, it would be interesting if he caught on to that, and maybe he has and has not, depending on the circumstances. But there is one big flaw to this anime. I'm not quite sure what it rates, because I forgot to look that up right now, well, just before now. But the biggest flaw I've had with it is it's kind of centered around a made-up disease as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to the actual thing, it's... I don't know if I want to say too much, but sometimes some anime generate a plot around a thing that's closely related to a real-life concept, but then they modify it so that it's pretty obviously false. And I don't know. Sometimes those things are at the forefront of what it's all about, and then it gets in the way. And then sometimes it's really only a problem, like in Ant-Man, the entire concept of how they could theoretically shrink subatomic when they define their ability to shrink as shrinking the distance between atoms. So by definitions, they are still going to be composed of atoms. They can't enter some quantum world because they're still going to be atoms, even if there's absolutely no space between said atoms. That's just an obvious thing, and that sort of thing isn't played at the forefront of Ant-Man. Whereas with this anime, the made-up disease that it's about is kind of the driving point of the anime. It's the twist that's supposed to get you watching. But sometimes I think it's just ridiculous. it has given me an opportunity to switch gears between three things. Where I'll watch like an episode of 1 Week Friends. Maybe I'll pause every once in a while to play a little bit of Splatoon. And I've been watching Adventure Time Season 5. I don't know if there's much to comment about it. Feels a little different. Not bad, just different. Yeah, I guess so. So for this, I'm definitely curious to see where it goes. Because I'm at least handling the... It's not annoying with its fake disease. I think Kashimashi was one that was annoying with its fake disease. Police Teacher, I thought was kind of annoying with its fake disease. So, that's maybe a couple other examples out there. The entire point of those sorts of things is it's sort of like... I guess I can explain my annoyance there. It's sort of like the convenient amnesia plotline where just before something major happens, a character has to suddenly have amnesia just to create drama, even if the amnesia is not particularly realistic for that scenario. But then if you make it where that character gets amnesia conveniently throughout every episode, if you're not making it a comedy, then you're making it a lot harder for people to take it seriously. Because as a dramatic point, okay, it happens once, and you're like, okay, see if you do something different with it. Now, if you can't do something different with it and just keep throwing it at the audience over and over again, then that gets useless. And that's kind of the problem with some of these fake diseases. I guess the Kashimashi mostly kind of sort of came in closer to the end. The annoyance did, I guess. No, I don't know, it was driving. I'm babbling. So obviously I already mentioned Adventure Time Season 5 stuff. I'm not very far in that. I expect that one to go very slowly because I'm not binge watching it like I would have before. Especially since there's so many episodes. But I did also hint at that I did watch Ant-Man, and I thought it was pretty good. It'd be pretty tricky for me to re-watch, though, because the frustration of the situation with the ex-wife and the adoptive husband, and that sort of stuff is just bullshit. And the show just kind of has it there, and it's really hard to tell if you're supposed to think about it or if you're just supposed to say, oh yeah, that's how we expect things to be. Because it's, I mean, think of it this way: you have a wife who's demanding child support. She's living in a fucking house. I don't know if it's paid off. I don't know if they're currently paying it off, but she's like, no, you're not allowed to have any reproductive rights to see your offspring until you pay me back. And he's living in a fucking apartment. It's not even his apartment. We see him go job to job, and it's not like it's his fault that he can't hold a solid job. It's because everybody takes a look at his record, and it's like we, the audience, are definitely supposed to sympathize with him, but I don't know that we're supposed to see that as reasonable, because many courts have established visitation rights and child support are supposed to be two separate concepts. Not that many of them also don't mix those up, I guess, but it's like, if you got down to it, really, he should be given money to help him see his child, to take care of the child. He's the one who's... And the real problem is that, of course, they set it up that his crime is actually pretty much a vigilante crime, but it's the sort of thing that's more like Robin Hood than like a flash mob raiding a house that they, I don't know. And see, that's the issue. That is just one small part of it. That's supposed to kind of establish something for the character, and regardless of what they intend for you to take away from that, it doesn't change the fact that I want to fucking strangle those, the ex-wife and the adoptive husband, because they're being dicks. And they're being real mean dicks. But everything else about the movie was good, especially I thought the final battle was actually pretty good. I know some people might not think the same, but if you go back to Iron Man, the very first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, when they reach the point where it's like the final battle's happening, you kind of get to this point where it's just like they look at each other and you just have the big CGI thing versus the other CGI thing, and I just can't feel an emotional difference than, oh, well, here's the Hulk fighting some big thing, you know? It's just sort of like, it felt like a very generic, blobby enemy that didn't have anything interesting or curious about it. Which is interesting, because those movies were still definitely good. But this one, it was a very interesting... I don't know if twist is the right word I'd call it. It felt like it was less blobby, less CGI, and more just stuff really happening. And I've definitely seen a complaint that it felt thrown together, and I think that might be a legitimate criticism, but I think it did pretty good considering that. I mean, like, Guardians of the Galaxy feels like it was just really well designed, really well structured, beginning to end. Like, you kind of felt like that was one long thing, and Ant-Man does have these weird, separate elements that mesh together, but something about them doesn't feel like a perfect meshing. It's not so bad that I think it necessarily detracts from enjoyment of it, but I don't know. Anyways, I did pre-order all of next month's stuff that I found. I think this is my first time shopping on Right Stuff's new site. I like it for the most part. I just don't like that their pages don't let me know when I've pre-ordered something, so I'm being a bit more conservative with my pre-orders there to make sure I don't accidentally pre-order something really expensive from Aniplex twice, for example. Like I accidentally almost did with probably Yuki Yuna as a Hero Volume 2. I'm trying to think what was pre-ordered, but the only thing I remember is I decided to go ahead and pre-order that premium edition version of the Fullmetal Alchemist Blu-ray release, just because I figured that one might actually be popular enough that it's a good idea to see if I can make sure I have a copy pre-ordered. Other than that, though, I'm not quite sure what's coming out. I did notice another one, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works Volume 1 dubbed is actually coming out before Unlimited Blade Works Volume 2 Japanese import. That almost make me want to change my decision on importing that, but I decided to continue doing my stupid thing. Oh well, and then I guess a couple of other things for this month from Eastern Star came up. What was that? Monster Farm was one of them. I think that's the Japanese version of Monster Rancher, and I haven't dug out Monster Rancher to see if that's double. I guess I could just check the DVD rips, but oh well. So, anime pre-ordered, and I think that covers about everything. So, y'all have a nice week.